Hello and welcome to this guide on the advanced gear change optimizer. It basically does three things and it's changed quite a bit since I originally did it. So this is a bit of an update on where it's currently at for everyone. But yeah, so it really does three different things. It helps you to work out the best time to change gears, so the best RPM to change up and down gear. It helps you work out the best combination of gear ratios. And it kind of has two different ways of doing that. You can do it sort of all in one go, or if you have some fixed ratios, for example, diff ratios that you can choose between, it will help you like work out the best one. So it does that for like the ultimate speed, yeah, your Vmax. But also if you're at a track where you don't get to that speed, and you can change your gears again, it can then help you work out like what's the right ratio to use, or what's the right combination of, or the best combination of ratios. The way it does this is if you look at this chart here, this sort of thrust chart, that or the thrust that you could have if you were able to have maximum power at all times, and grip, unlimited grip. So you haven't got either of those. With an internal combustion engine without some kind of electric help. So you normally have this torque curve, which is what's at the top. So that's what you'll get from your running road. And your tires will be limited as well. They will have some grip limit. So that's this bit here. So you put that in as a top ceiling, and then you put in your torque curve, and it gives you these shaped curves here, depending on how many gears you have. And the idea is you want to use your gears to get as close to this frontier line as possible. So what the tool does is it kind of works out, like if you can't really see it, but like there's little gaps there at each point, just where the one sort of thrust curve falls away, and then the other one from a different gear arrives. There's like a little gap, and so what it's trying to do is adjust the ratios so that that gap is really small, and then also give that to you here as an example of how to change gear. Okay, and so what I've done is I've tried lots of different ways of doing this, and so I've come up with this power utilization method. It's actually really difficult to work out the area of these little sort of funny areas, the little funny triangles. So yeah, so I've had a few goes at it over the years, and this is where it's at the moment. So it is a bit different to what was there before, but it's much more kind of robust. So basically, you just want 100% here on this power utilization, and you won't get that, but you want as close as you can. Okay, and you can kind of see it like it does marry up. So like this is 99.2, which is really quite good, and you can see there's not really many big gaps between those things. So okay, so that's kind of like intro to what's going on. The table, right? So let's start off with the simple stuff. So this is the recommended gear RPM table, and it's a simplified version of what's over here, and that just sort of rounds the numbers a little bit. You can use that one if you want. If you can plumb it into your dash or something with the lights, just use this one. If you're cutting it out and sticking it on the steering wheel, which is what I've done before, just use this simplified one. You're not going to get down to 1 RPM. You don't need that tolerance. Okay. It's worth remembering that if you look at this little chart here on the bottom left, that in each gear for each speed there is one ideal gear that will give you the most acceleration. Yeah, and you can see that from these curves, right? So you can see that each curve here, so there's one that's always closest to the line, and that's so where they intersect, where they cross over, that's when you want to go, or when you get closer to this line with another gear, that's when you want to change. Okay, and so that's what this is working out, and there's a bit of maths in the background that does all of that for you. It gives you the gears for changing up and also for when you change down. Now, I've already messed around with this imaginary car here, but quite often the down changes have more differences than the up changes. Often with a race engine, it's pretty much near the red line, but the down changes can be can be not, particularly if you're using a more road car derived gearbox. They tend to have a more of a difference. If you can change them, that's what we'll get into it in a minute. So where should we start? So if we that's the kind of thing for this setup. So you put it, if you can't change anything, you put all of your numbers in there. It's for 6 speeds, yeah, for 6 speeds. But if you only have 5, repeat the first one. Yeah, if you only have 4, repeat the first one 3 times, and then you can just change this label to make it how you want. So if that was a 6, we'll just put 6 in, and you can see it. All the labels change. Okay, so it's just a labeling thing here. I'm only running 5 gears on this one, so I'm gonna keep that the same. And then this final drive ratio is the other thing you can change as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is just show you what it's like to change something. So if I change that 5th to 1, okay, you can see that the power utilization has dropped. If I undo that, you see it's a bit higher. And what you can do is you can sit and plug in numbers for all the different ratios you want. Yeah, so either the ratios that you have, or say you're on a sim or something, and you can put in whatever ratios you want. You can just sit there and plug in the numbers like that. And what I have here is this sort of scratch pad, and so I just keep like a track of the different ratios that I've put in, or ones that I've found, ones that I found useful, and then keep an idea of like see this percentage here. Just keep a track of it. You can use it for whatever you want. Okay, but it's just how I would go about doing it. One of the things that has changed is the engine bit. So this was a question that came up. So before we used to put the engine data in here. Now you don't. You put it in engine data, and what that chart pulls, this information here, this one is coming from this lot here. Okay, but you can't. I don't need to change that. Okay. What you do is you put your data into this chart here. That's where you input your torque curve from the running mode. And again, I've got these kind of scratch pads here for different engines. So you might have historical engines, or you might just be playing around and saying, oh, well, if I had another 5 horsepower, what difference would that make? Yeah, you might be looking at that kind of thing. So these are just options. And if you want to like put one in, you just sort of literally just copy it here and paste it in. This probably the same with it. If I do this one, maybe, copy and then paste it in, and then get rid of 2 bits there, and that one, and that one. Can you see? And then so we've got like a different engine in there now. Okay. This little chart is like a carryover from the previous way I used to analyze this. So it's just really for information, but you can kind of see, like, putting this information in, how the different engines, how they have a different effect on all of this stuff. So if I go back here, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put this engine 2 back in. Okay. What I try and do when I do have this sort of hard cut-off thing, depending on what your engine does, if your engine can only go to like 7 and then it can't go anymore, put in the red line there. Otherwise, I tend to smooth off the curve a bit, just for the maths, just to make the maths a bit easier. But yeah, so there's just a little bit of refinement in there for you. So these, I think, like this 8,000, I think it does go to 8,000, this engine, but it was like, I just thought I put in like this number here just to help the maths, and so you get a good crossover point. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can see this sort of scalar thing, which is a bit of an advanced feature, but basically if you go here, and say you wanted to see like, oh, if I had 10% more horsepower, what effect would that have? So you just put in 10 in this bit, upload, and everything updates, and you get like the difference sport 10 horsepower, so it shifts everything around, whatever, right? So it's just like an easier way of iterating through different types of engine. Okay, so that's the engine inputs. Everything else is the same. You've got your tire, an estimation of your mu. I mean, like I've picked the peak longitudinal acceleration that my car I've seen from the data logger, but you can use whatever again. And these figures are just here. They're always going to be a best estimate. I've got some ways of helping you calculate your frontal area using a grid. So if you look I'll put a link somewhere, but if you just search on your data driven for frontal area calculation, you can get like some assistance on that bit. And try and find this other information that you may already have. Okay, so that sort of gets you going. What else we got? We got this bit over here, which is about the track. So this is like this extra refinement, which we'll get into in a minute. But just so you know, these figures here are the RE rate of your track. Yeah, so if you've got access to a data logger where you can see the speed trace, you just literally pick roughly the minimum speed and the maximum speed all the way around the track. And what it does is it creates these little lines here at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that for each straight. And then by looking at where these dotted lines intersect the corners, you can tune your gear ratio so you're not changing gear mid corner. Okay, or you're changing gear at like at a sensible time, like down the straight. Because with this kind of optimization, it's quite easy to get yourself in a bit of a pickle really with that, because you end up, it's quite easy to have a gear where you, like the ideal, we've got the best optimized power, but it means I've got to change gear on the apex every time, and I'm just not going to do that. So that's the kind of challenges you get into when you have like freedom of all the gear changes is amazing, but it also comes with these caveats of you've got to manage these kind of things. So that helps you do that, and it helps you visualize in I think quite a nice way of where the gear changes will be around a particular track. You don't have to use it, it's just there if you like. So what I've done here, so what it does, the optimization, last point on this, it will take the lowest speed of either your what it thinks is your maximum speed based on the aero and your engine, or the speed from the fastest straight of your track. Yeah. So if you don't want it to be a track derived thing, just make sure that like your highest speed at the track is above the highest speed that it thinks you can do. Yeah, so you can see this one here. I've artificially made it like way quicker, so that it's giving us the ultimate for the car, assuming we could drive it to the maximum speed anywhere. In practice, it may be that you might want to just refine that. So if in fact it was at 165, so now it'll optimize for 165, and you can see the figure it's optimizing for here. Yeah, so if I make that 265 again, just some number higher, that it's picking the 175, which is the highest speed of this car at the moment. Hopefully it's not too jumping around, but basically, so you can muck around with this. So if you for example manage to reduce the drag of your car, so at the moment this is quite draggy, but yeah, so we took off 5, right? So now the top speed's gone up. You see, so it's still going to optimize for that. And if I just do something silly with it, like 0.4, whatever, right, or maybe 0.1. So okay, doing these things live doesn't really work, but hopefully once you start putting sensible figures in, it does tend to work out. But you can kind of see it starts trying to work all set up here. So and it will highlight so the VMAX it's now targeting for track 1 is what I first say, but the actual VMAX is a bit higher because of this create no drag up. Right, I'll put it on that front. Cool. Okay, so that sort of sets the scene. So if you just put all of that in, you will get your gear change things. But now we're going to do the ratios. There's a couple of different ways of doing this. If you can't, let's start with if you can't change your ratios at all, right? You can only change your diff. For example, I'm going to move the out of the way here. There's this, you go to the diff analysis, which is this bit. I got a bit carried away with the, I put me out there. I got a bit carried away with the charts for this one. Hopefully that doesn't freeze up. I've had a problem, because I've recorded this video 3 times, and every time I've been moving around, it's frozen up. Right, so this is the diff analysis area, right? And it's sort of a little standalone area that runs itself. And the idea is you put in 3 diff options so that you have available for you, and it will tell you the best one to use for, again, either your track, which would be, remember this, maybe there, yeah, either the track or your overall top speed. Yeah, it's up to you. So that's what it's going to do. And so you set this bit up. So like, what am I optimizing for? Am I optimizing for the track or just overall? Right, that's the first thing. And then once you set that, you've got the diff and then the other analysis, which we'll do in a minute. But the diff, you put in 3 different options that you have available, and you basically just click run diff analysis. And what it does is it goes through a little steps of 0.1 of a ratio to and works this number out, and then plots it. It stores it all behind the scenes, and then plots it on these different charts, so you can kind of see like how sensitive it is and what's when it's non-linear and that kind of thing. It also just does, this one does some stuff for the top speed, so you don't necessarily have to keep on plugging numbers in to the track. Yeah, but if you wanted to know the optimization below this 175, it does that as well for different speeds, just to save you having to plug those numbers in, or just so you know. Okay, so you go, I can just go like, I know the fastest speed that I'm going to get to at this track is what, like about 120 or something. So what's the best diff for 120? Yeah, and you can look at that. All right. So I won't click it because it'll get upset. But basically, you just click that and it runs and it does. But that is just standalone in that area. Okay, nothing else is integrated. It's just for your information. And then you bring that back. So it will give you a number. It will tell you the best diff here, right? So then you bring that back to this area, and you can see, what's going on. So it's saying 4.5. Average put 4.5 in. So of the options that we have, or it'll be 4.45 around, so 4.45. That is the best diff it reckons for us, right? You can see it's had a big impact on the utilization or whatever, but I think it's just because I was throwing numbers at it. When you do it, it will be more representative of what you have available. Okay, and so the final thing that we do here, which is this sort of clever bit, as it were, is like, so you're not having to plug the numbers in constantly. I set up solver, so we go to data, and then solver is over here. And if you're on a Mac, it's the same thing, but it's in this analysis bit. It should work the same. And you click on solver, and again, I've done like several different ways of doing this over the years. This is a simple one to kind of get you going, but it's up to you. There's 3, if you never used solver before, there's 3 different types of method for doing this. The only one that works is this non-linear one, right? What I've managed to get working. But what you do is you set an objective. So that's this cell here. I want this cell to be maximum. I want to maximize that cell, or you get as close as we can to 100%. When you change these cells, which are these ones here. These, so that's what you would have been doing manually. And then you can add some constraints to it. And that is useful sometimes. So in this case, I've put an example one in there by saying, right, I want fifth gear to be 1. And that's quite common to have fifth gear is number 1 as an optimization strategy, because it's basically this 1-to-1 ratio from the engine to, so if you're going less than 1 is something that you would do in a kind of a road car environment for better fuel economy or whatever, but we are all about performance. So 1 is kind of a typical thing. But you don't have to have it. Like, you can get rid of that and it will come up with a different set of answers. But if I do run this, I don't think this is optimized. So if I run it, it might get a different answer. Let's, fingers crossed, doing a live demo for this. Let's see if it works. Oh, look, it's changed some things. And yeah, so what you get is this little box comes up, so you can either get to keep the solver solution or not. It did change some stuff. It's actually made it slightly worse, but that's because of my constraint, you see. So it's trying to help you out, but it doesn't. Well, it's only Excel, right? So it doesn't always do the best job. If I do another one, like let's do another one here so we can get a better number. So if I get rid of this constraint, yeah, and then what you can also do is you can say, right, I don't want it to change the diff, for example. Say I can't change the diff, but I can change everything else. I'll just highlight this lot. Yeah, and then you go, right, so it's only going to change these numbers here. Let's see what it does. So what it's trying to do is like go away and it's crunching, it's trying to even all the numbers out, it's trying to maximize that power utilization. And what's quite nice is you end up typically with quite some nice evenly spaced gear ratios. So keep an eye on down here what it's doing and how these lines all move around. As I say, it does take a little bit of time. So you can see it's all kind of chunked around. It's like, oh, okay, that's actually quite nice. So what I might do is I might say, yeah, okay, I have that, and we could go. All right. So that's in a nutshell what you do. Like I would store those ones there, put them here, and we've got like ever so slightly better, whatever. And that is basically how to use it. So I really hope it helps you, and I'll keep it updated and keep doing the feedback as I get it. But yeah, hope it helps you go faster.